Welcome to today's Piece of Peace. Consistently bringing us back to mindset of gratitude in the morning so that you can start off with a heart that's at peace, a mind that's at peace, a spirit that's at peace, a body that's at peace. As we move into gratitude, our blood pressure comes down, our pulse comes down. There's a lot of benefits to having a mindset of gratitude. And I love to lift that up to God. So here's my top 10, as we call it. I reiterated one of my gratitudes from yesterday that I said that you never leave me alone and that you're always thinking of me. And I see how God moves totally in and through people to accomplish his work on earth as it is in heaven. So I was feeling a bit isolated for a while and just reiterating to God that I'm grateful that he doesn't leave me alone, and I'm grateful that he's always thinking of me. And yet to have a tangible human being come in and offer that hands and feet of Jesus piece is really beautiful when he orchestrates that. So yesterday afternoon I got a late text, or evening I should say, got a text from a good friend who lives close by and asking me to go walk, and I love that. We put about 4.5 miles in and talked the whole time, and that was beautiful. I watched how he didn't leave me alone through another person. And yet again, that evening I got a call from another good friend, and I think we had a 4-hour conversation just catching up on all that has been going on in each other's lives, and that was just absolute heaven on earth as the Lord just came through two separate people to say, I'm still thinking of you. And I thanked him for almost 5 additional miles yesterday in walking. I have gratitude that I have the ability to exercise. It feels so good to be able to do that. There's many that can't, and I feel very fortunate and have a lot of gratitude for it. As I was reading this morning, there was a couple squirrels that jumped from one of the trees and sat outside. There's part of our roof line that I can see out the window where I do my studying in the morning, and two of them just, they're just like children with endless energy as they tossle over each other, but I was enjoying watching them. Then I thanked him and had gratitude for the full feeling I experienced as I went to bed after connecting with people yesterday. It was such a gift. I have gratitude for fresh air and the ability to breathe. With a lot that's going on around today, I know there's many that are struggling to do that, and I was feeling very fortunate to be able to. I have gratitude for my health, gratitude for peace, gratitude for truth. Gratitude for truth. I love that. And then my 10 was gratitude for God, my Bible, all that he's teaching me through school, through a friend of mine named Susie Larson. I'm reading one of her books, through another book that I'm reading through Matthew Kelly, which I'm gonna suggest these two books, and I'll hold them up so you can see them. And then just another friend who was expressing to me books and videos that she's been watching. Just love what God's been letting me learn in these days, and just thanking him for it. So 2 books that I really want to suggest. One's by Susie Larson, and you can order her stuff online, but hopefully you can see this pretty good. It's called Learning to Flourish, Mind, Body, and Spirit. The title is Fully Alive by Susie Larson. An incredible book, but I suggest that you... she has a DVD series that goes with it, which is nice. And you can order her book online and her DVD online. And yet do the homework in it, because it's incredibly profound how it changes you. Another book that I really want to recommend is Rediscover Jesus, an Invitation. And this is by Matthew Kelly. And so those are 2 books that God has had me currently in, and revisiting Susie's book and reading for the first time Matthew Kelly's book. But look into those if you so feel led. to dig a little bit deeper into your faith. So today's we start off in, I use a devotion called Our Daily Bread. You can download an app onto your smartphone, or you can order these booklets online, Our Daily Bread, and they'll send them to your house, and there is no cost, unless you so choose to donate to them. So today we're going to be reading in Samuel, 1 Samuel, in chapter 8. This is where, until this point, God was king over the Israelites. Until this point. And Samuel was kind of like a judge. And Samuel had appointed a couple of his sons who didn't follow God quite the way Samuel did. And were rather corrupt, actually. As sometimes greed and money can change people from having integrity to being very corrupt. That's why God says we can't serve the master of money and him at the same time, because I think humans are too tempted to the power of money. I think we see that a lot in our world right now. But as we look into Samuel 8, we're going to see a little bit of that and what the Israelites were asking. So I'm going to start in verse 1. I'm going to read through verse 9. Okay? And Israel asks for a king. I can't imagine how the Lord felt when he had been king over them and how they were asking for a different one. But, discarded maybe, not thought of. I'll start here. Verse 1. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abiah. And they served at Beersheba. But his sons did not walk in his way. They turned aside after dishonest gain. There's that money piece. And accepted bribes and perverted justice. Wonder how much of that's still going on. The time of Samuel. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel in Ramah and said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." Israel had God as their king, and they were wanting a human as their king because they didn't trust Samuel's kids. And rightfully so that they didn't trust. And Samuel was growing old. I guess they didn't understand that God could have provided for them still. But when they said, "Give us a king to lead us," this displeased Samuel. So he prayed to the Lord, and the Lord told him, "Listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you that they reject, or it is not you that they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king, as they have done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are doing to you. Now listen to them, but warn them solemnly, and let them know what the king who will reign over them will do." The devotion is written by John Blaise, and it's titled "In the Father's Ways." And in the first paragraph, he expresses how greed and monetary gain corrupted a Chicago West Side housing development, and how the owners of these developments took advantage of people that were trying to live there. And it was, you can read that, but I want to go right to this point. He said, Samuel appointed his sons judges over Israel, and they were driven by greed, much like the example he gave previously to that. His sons did not follow Samuel's ways. In contrast to Samuel's integrity, his sons turned aside after dishonest gain and used their position to their own advantage. This unjust behavior displeased the elders of Israel and God. putting in motion a cycle of kings that fills the pages of the Old Testament. To refuse to walk in God's ways allows room for the perversion of those values. And as a result, injustice flourishes. How much of what's going on in our world right now is about putting aside God's ways and starting to walk something antithetical to what he would want, and greed taking over and running dishonest and untrustworthy things? One of my gratitudes was truth today. What is his truth? God's truth. What is truth in what's coming across everything today? Seek truth. To refuse to walk in God's ways allows room for the perversion of Samuel's values, and as a result, injustice flourishes. To walk in God's ways means honesty and justice are clearly seen. To walk in God's ways to refuse to walk in God's ways allows room for the perversion of those values, and as a result, injustice flourishes. To walk in God's ways means honesty and justice are clearly seen not only in our words, but in our deeds as well. Those good deeds are never an end in themselves, but always that others may see and honor our Father in heaven. His charge to us was this: what current example of injustice are you aware of? What is one way you can work towards justice in that example? This devotion was written probably well before, because this booklet was for June, July, and August. So I'm not sure how they rotate or how they write them in, but man, how poignant for today. And his prayer was this: God, injustice surrounds us on every side, often overwhelming our hearts. Help me to stand with those who suffer and commit my life to walking in your ways. How might things change if greed was taken away? How might things change if we chose to walk in God and not swerve to the right or to the left? How might things change in our world when we seek truth? God, injustice surrounds us on every side, often overwhelming our hearts. Help us to stand with those who suffer and commit our lives to walking in your ways. That brings us to Jesus Calling. Sarah Young's book. You can download her app. You can order her book online. When things seem to be going all wrong, she writes from the perspective of God speaking to us. So, when things seem to be going all wrong, stop and affirm your trust in me. Calmly bring these matters to me and leave them in my capable hands. Then simply do the next thing. Stay in touch with me through thankful, trusting prayers, resting in my sovereign control. Rejoice in me, exult in the God of your salvation. As you trust in me, I make your feet like the feet of a deer. I enable you to walk and make progress upon your high places of trouble, suffering, or responsibility. There's today's piece of peace. God bless you.